Mr. Primetime, 2 days in a row we're doing this shit.
Cheers.
Yeah,
You're down already, man.
I'm all
Yeah.
with you, man.
All these injuries fucking drink the sorrows away, right?
Try being a Yankees fan, man. The whole
Oh,
fucking team is hurt.
try being a Met fan. We got COVID now.
Do you?
Yeah, 2 players testing positive today. So they suspended tonight's game, and tomorrow's game against the Yankees also got postponed already.
Oh, dude, I was out. I didn't even notice that.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. So
Oh.
who knows when they're going to be playing, so you can't complain.
You know what's weird is that the NFL has really no cases. It's been really quiet where the numbers are actually going down. Like it's kind of strange.
Hockey and basketball, too. I don't think they've had anything. So, and
Well, they're in a bubble, though. Like they're more isolated with football. They're kind of like business as usual for the most part. And it's pretty wild.
Yeah, they said like none of the Mets players like went out or violated curfew or anything, so they're trying to figure out like how they had it, and they're doing all the contact tracing now. And it's like how do you do, like if there was they said there was one player and one coach, so like obviously all those guys are in the dugout, so it's like how do you figure out who might have got it, who didn't get it? Like
I didn't even know that, dude. I gotta read all the news now.
Yeah, so I don't know when they're gonna be playing again. So
oh shit. Well. Yeah. I guess we'll go into some Jets news. I guess we'll start with the wide receiver position, which we've been talking about a lot. And the Jets, are bringing in guys. I don't understand why they're not looking at Taylor Gabriel. I've mentioned him for about 4 months now, where I'm guessing it's his size. Maybe he's just too small, but he's explosive. And he played to me, he's like that Tariq Cohen, Tyreek Hill kind of guy. Like that's like the small, explosive guy. You use him out of backfield. You use him in so many different ways. I mean, I know the Jets have a lot of speed and they're proud of it, but like he's a proven guy. I mean, Kevin White hasn't played in 2 years. Dante Moncrief played last year and he sucked. Like, I don't know. It's just weird how they're going about it. It's just, and it's kind of times, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see Gabriel, but, I'm kind of intrigued by the upside of Kevin White. I mean, a 7th overall pick. He's from New Jersey.
He hasn't played in 2 years, dude.
No, listen, I understand all that, but, when you go 7th overall, you obviously had some tape that said, all right, this guy could be a potential number 1 wideout. So I'm curious to see, is he healthy now? Can he get back to that form that he had in college? It would be interesting because he's still young and, he has plenty of potential. So, I'd like to see what he could do if he's actually healthy.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've been begging them to have workouts and tryouts. And I'd have a conga line in every day, like every 5 guys in, 5 guys out, every fucking day till you find guys. And I guess we'll go into the news of the day and the training camp, all the reports. There's a lot of things we got to digest here. And the first thing we got to understand is the defense as a whole will always be ahead of the offense at this time of the year, especially when you have so many returning starters and so many new pieces on offense. So if this isn't the day to overreact, like, holy shit, they suck, we know. No, this is part of the process. Now, if we're having this same conversation in 2 weeks, then we get concerned. So some of the stories I'm not like the offensive line not being in sync and getting mauled and taken advantage of, that's supposed to happen. Like that we kind of expect. The receivers not getting off the line of scrimmage and not beating covers, beating corners that don't feature Pierre Desir, that's not ideal, dude.
Yeah, when you're hearing about Nate Hairston and Bless Austin, and 2 guys I mean 2 guys that obviously we hope are gonna contribute and play well on the defense, but they're not elite cornerbacks. So when your wide receivers are struggling to get off the line of scrimmage and make plays against those guys, when the season starts, they're going to be facing much greater competition. Yep. So that's going to be a very big issue.
Gilmore, week 1.
Yeah, exactly. So that's even more reason to, rely on guys like Herndon, Crowder. I know Sean Jefferson today said he thinks Crowder's going to catch 90 balls. He's going to need to. I think, same thing with Herndon. He's got to be heavily targeted. Same thing with Le'Veon Bell out of the backfield. You got to use what you have and what you have, because on the outside, it's still a lot of question marks. Mims, they even said he's got to get to individual drills before he starts practicing in pads and team drills. So we're talking about at least a week, maybe longer before he's on the field. So expecting much out of him right now, I think that's going to be tough. So, yeah, hopefully Chris Hogan could step up. I know he had a nice touchdown catch today. He's got some experience, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at some of these guys are going to have like 2 weeks of practice and the season starts. Yep. And that's like, including Desir, but he's a veteran guy, so you kind of have some faith in him. But like think about that. 2 weeks of practice and game day. That's where we're at. We're 24 days away from the season starting. Like I said, you have a couple weeks of practice, then you're in game prep. You're not, I mean, it's interesting, man, because now it's Mims, this is a tough spot for him.
The only thing I'll try to look at it from a positive perspective, I guess, is that, last year, not that it translated to good football, but you had a lot of starters that didn't play in the preseason. So it's not uncommon for your starters to not play so much in the preseason.
Mini camp and everything else.
Exactly. So that's going to be the one big difference there. And especially early in the season when you're going up against teams like the Bills and the Niners who have a lot of returning starters, that's going to be a very big challenge early in the season. Yeah,
so my initial take was, offensive line getting manhandled. I kind of expected it. I'm not overreacting yet to that. The wide receivers not getting separation, that is bothersome, but that is the predicament we put ourselves in. Like this, I mean, I'm not gonna say I told you so, but this is kind of expected, dude. Like, if you have these kind of injuries and you don't have the amount of talent that we should have at wide receiver, this is gonna happen. So now, if they're gonna feature tight ends, where Trevon Wesco is starting to come on, which is great. Ryan Griffin, if he ever gets healthy, wonderful. Chris Herndon, you said Le'Veon Bell, Crowder, and that's what you're gonna focus on, and see what happens, and and hopefully run the ball. And that's, I mean, I don't know. We're gonna talk about the same thing every time. This wide receiver thing is gonna be a problem. And when you're looking at guys that haven't played in 2 years to probably be an answer to your problem, I mean, it's
obviously not ideal, but that just puts more of the spotlight, I think, on Adam Gase to show that, he is a true offensive guy who can, scheme around some issues and, get guys open. He's got to prove it now. He might not have everything that he needs, but, good offensive coaches, they can make it work. They can scheme around some holes, get guys open, get creative, get imaginative. That's what he's got to do.
Yeah, and the one thing that, it's so funny because we appreciate everybody who watches these videos. Subscribe if you're not subscribed there. We definitely appreciate it. But you have these trolls that love to attack and say, well, you're making excuses for Sam Darnold. No, we're not. Now, here's the thing. If you snap the ball and you have some kind of protection and nobody's open, do you want him to force the ball and throw an interception? Does he throw it away? Like, what? I mean, that's the predicament we're in. Like, when every analyst says the Jets are doing Sam Darnold no favors, you know what that means? They're not surrounding him with enough talent. So if you roll out and there's nobody open, you either force the pass, you panic, you throw it away, or live another day. Either way, it's not a completion and it's not positive. It's not a positive play, and that's the concern going forward. It's not excuses. It's saying, well, how productive are we letting him be? Yes, he can throw guys open. Yes, he can make good reads. But if nobody's open, then what are you doing? You're going to go to your check down. It's.
Yeah, and I think that was part of the problem last year where he was just putting so much on himself, trying to force a lot of balls in there, trying to do too much because he didn't have a lot around him. And it might be the same problem this year. You hope that the improved offensive line, you'll have a ground game and we can kind of work off that. But still, there's a glaring hole on the outsides. And without that, again, you got to have Gase be able to do some things there and scheme around it because it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. And everybody's like, I don't know why they keep calling me this, like, Sam Darnold, I'm always like an apologist for him. I'm not an apologist.
Being honest, man. Like,
dude, it's like you watch football.
Look at what other quarterbacks are working with.
But dude, we've seen it before.
Yep.
We've seen it with fucking Mark Sanchez. We've seen it with Geno Smith. We've seen ways to ruin quarterbacks first fucking hand. Mm-hmm. And then you see things here that, yes, this all felt like the one article this guy wrote. And listen, I appreciate everybody sending us articles to promote their articles and shit. But if you write bullshit, we ain't retweeting it. Like, don't give me your shit. Like, the offensive line will be drastically improved this year. Sam must be good or you draft somebody else. It's based on what? Like, drastically improved by what? Yes, the names have changed. We didn't bring in 4 Pro Bowlers. We brought in some journeyman guys, some guys that have some talent, and a lot of bullshit we watched on YouTube. So don't tell me it's going to be an all-pro line or the line from 2009. There's no guarantees of that. So it's not being an apologist to Sam Darnold. It's saying, listen, here's what we're dealing with. A whole new fucking offensive line, 2 new receivers, a shortened preseason, no preseason, a shortened mini camp and everything else, and a lot of pressure from the outside to say, Sam must play well. Okay, fine. But look at the whole picture here. The kid's got talent. Like, you watch the interview with Carson Palmer. Carson Palmer was raving around him. This kid can make all the throws. He wants it, doing that. I'll say this every video we do, you put Sam Darnold in Cleveland, you put him in Buffalo, you put him in Denver, you put him in Arizona, that kid will put up numbers. You put him here or vice versa. Put Josh Allen on the fucking New York Jets. What is he going to do here?
Yeah.
They'll be ground the pound. Some motherfucker can't throw.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, dude, this Sam Darnold shit's driving me crazy. And they're attacking us like we're idiots. We're trying to be honest about it. The kid can play, but build around him. And right now they're not doing that. Or they're trying to, but they're a year behind where they should be.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to evaluating Sam, I just try to be fair. Based off what we've seen from the first 2 years, you see a lot of flashes. You see that he can make every single throw on the field. He's great in the pocket. He's got the arm strength. He could do so much. He has it up here too, which is the most important thing, I think. So you figure he's 23 years old. He's only going to get better, right? Especially if you surround him with talent, you get him the right coach, maybe his case, hopefully.
He played 4 years in college. Fuck.
Exactly. And you have rookies right now that are older than him. Like, he's got some experience under his belt, which is great. You hope that he could build off that, but trying to make this a make or break year for him when he clearly doesn't have what other quarterbacks have, it's just ridiculous. And I hope that, we don't go down the same path that we've done with Sanchez and other quarterbacks where we run him out of town or he loses confidence and he becomes, what we dread. That's my biggest fear, because he's got all the ability, like we just touched on, and it's on the organization, on the coaching staff to build it around him.
Yeah, and the thing is, and it's like today's practice is a perfect example. You're only as good as your offensive line. If your offensive line is Swiss cheese, guess what? He's going to start running for his life. Going to try to run the ball. You start forcing throws, and then sooner or later you're going to get rattled, and you're going to start just making mistakes, because it's only a matter of time. You take a certain amount of hits, especially as a young quarterback. You're like, dude, what is going on here? You start just, you get a little skittish. Yep. So that's something that, 2 weeks from now, you don't want to have the same conversation where they clean up all these blocking issues and everything else. But enough with this Sam Darnold shit already. It's like, dude, the minute he has bad practice, oh, I knew it. This is going to be, that's what Sam is. No, it's not. Like, I know, listen, I understand people need to get clicks and they need views for their fucking podcast and all this other shit. But they're not fucking fans. They don't understand what's really going on here, because they watch, 2 highlights. This is what Sam Darnold is. No, we've seen it all. We've seen him in practice. We see it in the field. We see all the shit that goes on. And these are just football facts, dude. And
you're 100% right. But like, the one thing I'll say is that, like, you don't want to make, it's not making excuses, but like, you do want to put certain expectations on him, where year 3, the bar should be raised a little bit. I think that's fair to say, like, certain mistakes that we've seen.
Offense, you should run the offense.
Exactly.
Out of the huddle. Like,
exactly. He should be getting out of the huddle really quick. He should be able to diagnose defenses, make adjustments on the line of scrimmage, like things like that. He should be able to do. You should see improvement. So I'm not trying to say, like, if he has a bad year, we're going to blame it on everybody else. Yeah. Like, there are certain things that you absolutely want to see, and we'll judge him fairly on that. But I just think, like, he is not set up for success like so many of these other quarterbacks, where it's easy for them. They have talent around them. They have coaches that are putting guys in position to get open and make plays. Like, it's not going to be easy for Sam to do it. So I think if he does do it, that's a great sign for the future, that, once you actually get those pieces around him, the sky's going to be the limit. But for now, you got to evaluate things realistically, I think.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Like, there's certain things you want to see better footwork. You want to see him not, like, fall off his back foot through the ball, like, like, oh, here you go, up in the air, picked off, and, not take sacks on, 3rd and 2. Or there's certain things that game management, all these things, they have to improve. But that comes from experience, and that's things that we expect this year. Know when to call a timeout. Know when to audible. Know when to say, hey, live another day. You know what? Maybe take the sack. It's like, oh, fuck it. You know what? Take the sack now, because the pass isn't there. That's the maturity of a quarterback you want to see. Some of these other things are out of his control. And listen, I'll keep saying, a good quarterback can make the coach look good and can make other players look good. But the other players around you aren't good. The cards are stacked against you. Now, it's great to see Perryman with all these glowing reviews about Perryman and everything else, with his speed and yards after the catch and everything else. That's wonderful. But let's see it translate on game day. Like, PFF is making this guy another $20 million, all the fucking stats they're giving him. But the fact of the matter is, he has a lot to prove still. And he's playing for a contract. So, I mean, this Sam Darnold stuff, man, it's like every day these stories come out. It's wild.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really pay too much attention to it, to be honest.
I do.
Like,
I have nothing else better to do.
I get it, but,
That's why we do podcasts. We're bored.
No, I think, for you and I especially, like, we've seen the last 2 years, like, what this kid can do in practice, and, we've seen the flashes on game day. The sky's the limit. So, to the idea of just throwing him out before, you have certain things in place, I'm not about that. I'm going to
so fucking far.
I'll evaluate him fairly. I'll critique him when he deserves criticism, but, there's just so many X factors that are going into this. So,
no, it's crazy. So then you look at the defensive side of the ball, and obviously the defense dominated practice. Like I said, you don't look too much into it. That's what they're supposed to do. They have a lot more returning starters. They're more established. They should be getting after it, and they are. Quinnen Williams doing his thing. But the start of day, according to every report, and the guy that's reported like the best player on the field is Marcus Maye. And that, I think, is awesome. I think it's great. They need it desperately. And if they're going to put him in the Jamal Adams role, I think he can handle it, because they can move him around. He's a versatile player, dude. He can hit, he can cover, he can do all these things. I think it's awesome. Now, the whole goal is let it last 16 games. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you want to see him do all this. And my biggest criticism of last year was when the ball was snapped, he was running back 20 yards. He was never going forward. He's always going backwards. He made some splash plays, but they were letting Jamal Adams do everything, and he was like the cleanup guy in the back. Like, mop up the mess if everybody else makes a mistake. But now they're letting him flourish. McDougal lets him move a lot around. Ashton Davis can let him do a lot of things. Dude, let him be a fierce playmaker. I think it's great. Like, I've always liked him. He's quiet. He's becoming a leader. Dude, this is a positive. This is a tremendous positive for the Jets.
I don't have any doubts that he could fill some of the role that Jamal did, as far as being a box safety, being able to blitz, do certain things. But, he does have an injury history going back to Florida. His first year he had the ankle, second year he got hurt also. So you worry about, putting him, in the box that frequently where, he's blitzing, he's, making more plays against the run when he's your best coverage player, arguably. So I feel like that's his biggest trait. That's his biggest asset. And that's what we need. We need help, coverage wise. So I do worry a little bit about, him, I guess, taking on too much of that role, and risking injury. But, you have other guys like McDougald, like Ashton Davis.
I love a contract year, man.
Yeah. Well, you also wonder about that too, because, the first thing Gase did was, shop him. So how much interest does he have in staying a New York Jet? You got to worry about that, I think.
Yeah. I mean, listen, this to me was a great news. Like this is, like it helps get rid of the sting of the Jamal Adams trade. Because you say, listen, you're one of your best players in practice right now is another safety, which everybody's like Marcus Maye. It's never been, a lot of people wanted him traded once they thought Jamal Adams was going to resign. It's like, oh, what is he, 27 years old, whatever the hell he is. Oh, he's too old. He's too this. He's that. He's still a very good player. He just never stayed healthy. But he could do it all. And if he puts together a 16-game season, you're going to have a very tough time saying, you know what, let's give him a 3-year deal. Because he is older. Say, listen, let's try to bring him back for 3 more years. Give him a good contract. I think it's great news. Him, McDougald, the more you read about him, a versatile guy. He could play in the box too. So which makes Ashton Davis that much more important because he can fly, dude. You get these guys roaming around the line of scrimmage, let Ashton Davis run. Especially when you have, your corner position is kind of thin. I mean, this is good news, man. I think this is a positive.
Yeah, and not just Davis, but you're hearing reports about a lot of younger guys that are really starting to step up. Les Austin, he's making some plays, which again we desperately need help at
so
cornerback.
Much bigger too, man.
Yeah, I mean he came to camp shredded. Him and Blake Cashman, both of them. So if you can get Cashman, also a guy who can cover a little bit at inside linebacker, bring some speed there. That would be a huge asset. And we already touched on Quinnen Williams yesterday. He looks like a man amongst boys out there, ready to have a big year. So there are some pieces on defense. I just don't think they have that elite playmaker that's really going to get them into that top 15, top 10 range.
Yeah, I mean, even hearing about Henry Anderson coming back, making some impact, like the defensive line as a whole is a strength, and they're going to need that. That's where you're going to stop the run and do everything else. Like that's what you want to hear. Then you really haven't heard a lot about the linebackers. I mean, Avery Williams is not practicing yet, but you're not really hearing a lot. Which maybe the defensive line's doing enough. Who knows? But that's where you wish you had preseason games. You guys see what the hell is going on. But I mean, listen, the young secondary's doing their thing. The thing is. Not to be an asshole, but they're probably not being as challenged as much as they should be. I mean, Perryman's probably the only guy really challenging. Maybe Crowder can probably be a little shifty, but, you want to see Chris Hogan really start pressing the gas, and they interviewed Hines Ward today. Hines Ward kept preaching the speed. Speed is great, man, but if you're preaching speed, then why the hell is nobody getting open?
Well, you also touched on it, defense early in the year, early in training camp, they always dominate the practices. And then, last year it was ironic because, we touched on this last night, the offense, the last, few weeks of training camp last year, they looked phenomenal. Out of the 4 years that we were at camp, that was probably the best offense that I saw. And probably the worst offense that we saw was the Ryan Fitzpatrick year where he was just throwing ducks up there. Exactly. And then the offense looked great that season. So I don't put too much into what goes on in training camp. Like you said, it's constantly guys that are just, making adjustments to an opponent that they see every single day. It's when you start facing other opponents and you don't know those tendencies where you really get tested.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. There's a lot of cool stories. Like I said, everything's positive now. The only thing you keep an eye out is injuries. McDermott went down today. Another injury. I think it was not Kyle Phillips. Jordan Phillips. His name is Jordan Phillips.
Well, there was Jordan Willis. Jordan Willis and Matthias Farley also.
Yeah, he got hurt in safety. Right. So it seems like every day it's like there's guys that are out for like a substantial amount of time, which sucks.
Yep.
But they have depth on the defensive line, which helps. The offensive line is getting decimated day by day. It seems like that's a little bit concerning now because Cameron Clark's out now. McDermott's out. That's not ideal.
Depth-wise, you're in trouble on the O-line right now. But starting five as long as they stay healthy, and you still have Chuma. You still have Chuma there. You have Josh Andrews, who you brought in from the Pats. He's got some experience at guard, so you're not totally dead, I guess. There.
It's gonna be interesting to see what they do. Like once all these cuts start happening, and have the Jets start reshuffling things. Because and then. The yearly tradition, dude. I'm so excited to talk about this. I waited the whole fucking video. We don't have a kicker. Go figure, dude. Let me get this straight. We signed the shitty kicker, and guess what? The kicker's shitty. Wow. We're so surprised. Brett Maher sucked in Dallas.
If you're back Sam Ficken.
He sucks too.
I know.
Come on, dude. Like we knew this.
I know.
The minute they signed Maher, I told you, I'm like, dude, like. And I'll start the Ross Martin campaign again. Like, I don't even give a shit at this point. Because why not bring him in for a tryout? Like, dude, Maher sucked. He sucked. And like, oh, well, we're going to try to rejuvenate him. And dude, they're terrible. Let's just call it what it is.
Bring Nick Folk back. Isn't he a free agent?
Jesus Christ. No, did he sign somewhere? We gotta look that up.
Last year, I know he signed with the Pats. I thought he was a free agent right now.
He was good in the XFL.
Yeah.
Dude, you watch it, and I'm like...
Yeah, I saw Mar missed, a 40-yarder today, and then I think Ficken went 4 for 4. So, of course, he'll probably win the job, and he'll suck during the season.
It's like, what's today's date? August 20th? Yep, Jets kickers suck. Yep. It's like every year, the same goddamn conversation.
We got a punter, though. Braden Mann. He's looking
He had
good.
a bad day today, though.
Oh, did he? I didn't hear about that. I know.
Like, he shanked like 3, but then he shanked 3, but hit a 60-yarder. I'm like, yeah, but what the first 3 he missed? Like, we're gonna cotton pick the one that's actually the good one and forget the first 3. So,
man,
kickers, man. Now you know this is a true preseason video. We're talking kickers now, man. I'm complaining about them because I hate kickers to begin with.
Well, I mean, it impacted us last year. It cost us how many games? So, you know.
I saw Connor Hughes' tweet.
I'm waiting for Mark in Long Island to give me some shit about not bringing back Jason Myers again.
Dude,
he
got
all
me
over
today.
Me last year.
He hit me today. He's like, he goes, not bringing back Jason Myers. He's kicking us in the ass. I'm like, first of all, he sucked in Seattle last year. He missed like what?
Yeah, no.
Point after like every clutch kick he missed for the most part.
Yeah.
And he got paid how much? Like $3 or $4 million a year, or some ridiculous
he's getting
amount of
like
money.
$4 million a year over 4 years or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Man, we don't need him, but I mean, this is just. Come on, man. It's just,
the last thing you want to worry about right now is kickers with all the other issues we got.
Especially when you look at the Jets offense where it could be ground and pound. You got to really grind out yards and grind out all this stuff and field position. Like, you're going to probably need a very good kicker to just get points on the board. Yep. And then you don't even have one.
And even games where you're competitive, you figure like, when you're playing your best football, it's probably going to be a close game in the third, fourth quarter. You're not blowing anybody out this year, so you're going to need your field goal kicker to make some big kicks this year.
Unbelievable. So. I saw that. I just started laughing. I'm like, now this is true. Jets football is back now. Now we have things to complain about because the kickers just suck.
Yep.
So, and then the weird thing is there's 2 weird things here that you're kind of watching on the injury report. The first thing is this Brian Poole thing, dude. There's got to be more to the story than this.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you see the quote from Gase today, like, that they were really concerned, like, when it happened? Like, I don't know, like, did he pass out or, like I don't know what the hell happened. Like, they seemed like they were really concerned, like, when it first happened. And it's been, what, like 5 days now? He hasn't been
usually
back
you get,
out
like, an IV. You get, like, you do that, you're back, and you're back on track in, like, 2 days. Like, it's just crazy it's lasted this long.
Yeah.
And then Braxton Berrios being out for personal reasons. Like, these things are just interesting because now, like, the reshuffling, the cornerback position is probably a good thing because we all know Brian Poole is very good. Let the young guys play. Berrios not being back there, it's like, all right, who's going to return? Who's going to do this? Like, and is he going to get reps at wide receiver because we need help there too? Yeah. But two weird missing in action guys right now.
Yeah, the personal reasons. I mean, anybody can guess. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, Brian Poole. You really wonder, like, what the hell's going on there? Where 4 or 5 days of dehydration, you're still out. I mean, I get trying to be cautious with everything. I understand that, especially with Denzel Mims. With the hamstring, you want to be cautious. Don't get them out for multiple weeks. But something like that, it's like what the hell happened?
Yeah. So. Yeah, I guess the one big highlight of this training camp is going to be, I guess they're going to do a scrimmage, like a green and white scrimmage. In years past, that scrimmage was a joke, dude. They didn't even hit. We've been there. We were there firsthand. We watched it. It was like a glorified practice. Yep. They weren't really hitting. They were doing 11-on-11s, this 7-on-7. Nothing. You're wondering if that's going to be a little bit more heated this year, where they actually do some hitting. And if they do that, when are they going to do it? Because you only have 3 weeks left of camp. You kind of you don't want to start knocking guys out with injuries and stuff.
Yeah, but at the same time, like without the preseason, how do you get these guys ready for game one? Because I mean, there's a chance, like, if you don't get them prepared week 1, week 2, like, you're going to have more guys go down if they're not physically ready to play. So yeah, like you said, it's a very fine line between trying to get guys actually prepared and physically in shape versus risking injury. So I think it's important this year without the preseason and with all the unknowns of training camp to really kind of ratchet it up a little bit. And if guys get hurt, they get hurt, but you got to get them ready for week 1.
It's going to be fascinating. I mean, you almost wish the Jets would, like, broadcast it on their NewYorkJets.com or something like that so you can actually watch some of it, but they won't because they don't want to show up their formations and Gase is paranoid and everything else. But interesting, man. Like, the timing now, the way he manages practice, the way he handles all these injuries, it's just a lot of pressure, man.
It's going to be a nice test. It's going to be a nice test for him, for the training staff, that he just brought in. Good early test for everybody. Let's see what happens.
Great. I'm lucky. We got, 25 days, 24 days?
Yep.
Now it's like you just wake up and you're like, you watch the practice. Like, the most important part of the practice to me is the first 10 minutes. That's when the injury report comes out. Yep. And then, like, once the practice is over, the first 5 minutes at Gase's press conference when he says what else happened. Yep. And it's like, oh, Christ, now who's hurt,
Yep.
And we'll see, man. We're getting day by day getting closer. At least it's cool to talk football and like on the field stuff, but that's kind of cool. But
No, it's always good to have football back, but I think everybody this year has kind of tempered their expectations a little bit, which in some ways that's a little bit more fun, like where you can just go into a season, you're not expecting anything, you can just kind of watch these guys develop. But like Rex said, expectations are at their best when they're at their highest or whatever like that.
Yep.
He said during the Hard Knocks thing. So you always want expectations to be high, but for this year, I guess
listen, we could say we could
you watch
whatever.
Sam, you watch Le'Veon, and you hope that something good happens.
I don't give a shit what you tell me, dude. You can tell me what. Week 1, they start shitting in bed. I'm rioting. Like I'm gonna be on this goddamn thing right here, just ripping everybody to shreds and going nuts. Because it's just I hate losing. I don't care what kind of expectations. I hate losing.
I hate losing too, but I expect it this year, unfortunately.
Come on, Shaq.
I expect Sam to play well. But
Le'Veon play well.
Yeah, I don't expect too much as far as wins, though.
All right, prime time. Well, hopefully we get better training camp news where some guys are back on the field and there's some positive news. The offense gets their asses in gear, and we'll see what happens.
Sounds good, man. Keep the beard going.
Let's go. Later, dude.
Talk to you.